This episode is brought to you by 13, THUR13EN.com. Our friends at 13 are longtime sponsors of the Cory Cast, and they make high-quality clothing for high-quality human beings. I love the way that all their shirts fit. I feel like I am shredded when I put one of these bad boys on. Not only do I look good, I feel good, and I am super comfy all day long. They have a wide selection of all cool shirts and hoodies that I think you will love. They want to extend our friendship to you, the listener at home. When you check out, use the code word CoryCast, all one word, CoryCast, and you can save yourself a little bit of money. So make sure you pick up yourself a nice hoodie and just let them know that Cory sent you. My guest today is my friend Maddie Kearns. She is an EMS. She drives an ambulance, and she's got some bonker stories. I'm telling you, I cannot imagine me being in her position and reacting with the grace and empathy that she has. I mean, I'm walking onto a scene with a dude with a knife in his head. I don't think I would stop gagging and vomiting at the sight of that. It's just a reminder of how thankful I am that there's people like Maddie doing that job. It's a very thankless job, and especially with the political discourse going on right now. Emergency service is a super difficult job. Not only just last-minute changes in the crazy, fast-paced environment, Maddie does a really great job of intricately telling how the job functions in really what a normal day is like for her, and just like how much of that job takes a toll on her. Maddie is like one of the most personable, kindest people that I know, and her and I could have talked about jiujitsu and the correlation between that and EMS and emergency service, but we had to cut it short, and I'm sorry. We could have gone on so much longer. I am thankful for Maddie's friendship, and I am really excited to share this episode with you because this is a great example of how wonderful Maddie is and just like how difficult the EMS job is just in general. Before we get to the episode, just do me a solid. Make sure you hit that follow button. Leave me a comment. All these kind of things help the podcast grow in a very natural, organic way, and it costs you no money. So, do me a solid. Hit that follow button on Spotify. Hit that follow button on YouTube. Wherever you're listening or watching, make sure you're following me to stay up to date with the latest episodes of the podcast. So I'm going to shut up now. Here's my friend, Maddie Kearns. So I told your dad last night that I am collecting the Kearns interviews like Thanos' Infinity Stones.
I love it.
So your dad was like one of the first ones, which was great because it was like his creative side, right?
He's so cute.
Then you had Alec, who was like great for the real estate side. Now I got the charismatic Maddie on.
I'm so excited. I'm so happy to be here.
It's you have like a really tough job. And you were telling me some of the stories, like literally just before we got on, that makes me queasy, and I don't know how. Is the correct term EMT or EMS?
So EMS is like emergency medical services, so that kind of like blanket covers all of it.
Okay.
And there's EMTs and paramedics. I'm a paramedic. So you first become an EMT. It's like a couple of short months of training. It's very basic stuff like splinting and bleeding control and like how to breathe for someone. And then if you want to become a paramedic, you have to work for like a year, and then you go to paramedic class, which is 16 months, and it's like very rigorous training.
16 months of just paramedics class. What does that class like focus on?
So we like start off with kind of like basic stuff at the beginning, and then as you start to get more into it, you like learn like anatomy and physiology. You do like a crash course of A&P, and then you do like hospital clinicals, ride out shifts with a preceptor, and then you really focus on like becoming the main provider on the ambulance. So the scope of practice between AMTs and paramedics is vastly different. And so we do a lot of stuff with medications. So like all of the medications that we give, normally a paramedic would give. Like EMTs can give like epi if needed or aspirin. But
they can't do other medication.
No, they can't do like IVs. So like we learn how to do IVs in paramedic class.
Oh, you learn how to do IVs?
Yeah. So then like... We had to do them on each other to validate. So
What?
Yeah.
You had to do it on each other?
Yeah, I almost passed out when my friend did it. I was like, oh my gosh. But like one of the guys caught me because I was like, oh my god.
But now you're okay with it.
Yes,
Was it because it was your skin and you were watching it going, or
Yeah. And he's like fidgeting around in there, and we were like really bad when we first start out, right? Like we're terrible, like because we aren't supposed to practice on other people until you validate. So we're practicing on dummies, so it's like so different. And then the first time that you do it on someone, it's like it's obviously very different. The tissue is like much softer. So then once you start learning how to do IVs, you practice them in the hospital. Then you start doing your ride out shifts with the preceptor. That's where you get like all of your IV skills. They come after a couple of years. You start to get a lot better.
Oh my God.
But we do IVs in like such high stress situations sometimes. So like you really have to get the practice in paramedic class. So that
to get it right, like on the first try.
Yeah, we try to get them on the first try. I've gotten much better over the years. But I remember my first week, I had a patient that was like actively seizing, status epilepticus. So it's like back-to-back seizures without regaining consciousness. So I had to like, of course there's no lights in the house. I had to like get on the bed and while he's actively seizing, do an IV.
How do you, because you typically that's when they're still. And you're putting this person having a seizure. Like, how do you keep this person still? So
usually, sometimes we have help, sometimes we don't. So like with combative patients, seizure patients, you usually have at least one other person. Sometimes the fire department is there. And then especially like diabetic wake-up patients. So diabetic patients get like very, very combative.
Why? Is it just the fight or flight response?
Your brain operates off of glucose. So when your blood glucose level drops to a certain point, it's unsustainable with life. So like when your blood sugar gets to a certain point where it's very, very low, you'll get really, really confused. They get really sweaty, and then they just like, they don't know what they're doing, and they like don't really have control. So they start like fighting. Whoa. So they'll just like go into like a full blown like fight mode. So you have to have, like I've had diabetic wake-ups where we have like 5 people holding the person down, and I have to get an IV. So like you have to get an IV.
5 people, Maddie?
The person that I'm so worried about is like if Scott Fowler ever goes into
right.
We're never going to be able to hold him down.
Scott's going to kill everybody.
Yeah, he's just going to be like arm barring left and right.
Yeah. That's so fun. I couldn't imagine having to do that in a high pressure situation like that. And watching someone have a seizure is scary. It happened when I worked at Runnings. I had this man at the gun counter while I was there, like 250, 260 range, fell and started having a seizure, hit the shelf on the way down.
That's tough.
It's scary to do. Yeah. So like while you're trying to control the situation, you're trying to put a needle and hit the vein right.
Yeah.
So
and then like you have to secure it because like they're sweaty too. So one of the last ones that I had, even like so after a seizure, even if you're not actively seizing, they'll have a postictal phase where they're really confused as well. And my partner, I was training a brand new paramedic, so I was like, hey, like just so you know, like he's still really confused. The second that you poke his skin, he's gonna pull back. Like you have to be prepared for that. Like you have to like hold his arm down, make sure that you know that he's gonna pull back because you're not gonna be able to secure your IV or you're not gonna be able to advance it. So let him try. Of course, the second he pokes him, the guy like pulls back, misses the IV, you know. So so then we're like, so now he's bleeding everywhere. So now we gotta like hold him down, try to control the bleeding, wrap it all up. He's the guy has no idea what's happening, so he's thrashing around. So then I stepped in, and sometimes I'll do I'll like triangle their arm, and I'll just like sit on it, and I'll like sit on their hand and triangle their arm so that their elbow kind of pops out.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like an arm bar. So then like they just you know what I mean? You just have to kind of have control of certain limbs and stuff, and then other people can kind of take care of like holding down their like upper body so they don't like hit you with the other arm and stuff. I've had so it just like learning jiu-jitsu or body mechanics definitely helps in certain situations where people become combative, because most of the time when our patients are combative, they don't really know what they're doing. Sometimes people do, but most of the time they have no idea what's happening. So you have to control the situation enough so that you don't get hurt, they don't hurt themselves, but then like be able to provide medical care.
How nervous were you on your first week?
Oh my gosh, so nervous.
So because you don't know, like that is going into the unknown. You never know what to expect. Like maybe like a typical 9 to 5, like Tuesday's my meeting day. We go through, we do the meetings. Wednesday's the report. So you have, but you never know what you're going to get called into.
Never. So we like at AMR where I work. I was started full time on nights when I first became a paramedic. So when I got cleared, my shift was 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. 4 on 4 off. And it was the shift that I wanted, but my partner was brand new. So I also was like so nervous because like
You're both new.
Both new. So like
Yeah.
I've been around the company for a while. Like I know how to run a call, but it's like I am trying to learn how to.
But we're talking first weekend.
Yeah, I'm like,
right?
I'm like, this is, you know what I mean? It's my first day on my own. Like my first day on my own, like I'm shaking.
They didn't even give you a veteran. They gave you another new person,
Brand new person,
which kind of even.
I think everybody that graduated from our class that was on our side, every single tech was brand new. Every EMT was brand new with every new paramedic except for one. And so we were all like so nervous. We were so nervous. But then it was like so nice. We had so many people graduate out of our paramedic class that all worked together. So we'd see each other at the hospitals and we'd be like, oh my God, hey, like I just did this call. Do you think I did this right? And then like you'd like debrief over things, and it definitely helped us like bond with each other. And
because you
like,
had a good class that took the.
we had a really good class, and there were times where we all would like fight and stuff and get irritated with each other. But then like at the end of all of it, we were like, oh crap, like we're out on our own here.
Yeah.
And, like there's no one to turn to.
Right.
When you have a preceptor, so you go through 3 phases. You do phase 1, where it's like your basic stuff. Phase 2 is like your big, like you're starting to learn cardiology. You're starting to learn the respiratory system, and that's when you get cleared on certain interventions. So you can like intubate people once you do.
What does that
respiratory.
mean? What's intubate?
So you put a tube down their throat and breathe for them.
Oh
so it's
my
like,
God.
yeah. So
No, thank you. I'm so glad people do this job. Working 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. How do you not get burned out in all of this?
Sometimes it's really difficult. For a while, your first like little bit, we were all really excited. You know, we just got cleared. We worked so
Excited to be on the road and do your thing.
And like every call was new. Everything was exciting. After a while, you do start to get burned out though. I just took a month off because I was really burned out. Like this past summer was really rough. It was just nonstop. We're understaffed. Every 12-hour shift, you're getting out 2 hours late. We got a new charting system, so it's just like a lot to deal with. And so I just took a
lot, like physically and mentally to deal with.
Yeah. I like notice a lot of times if I'm like working too much or I'm like really starting to like get burned out, I'll have like hip pain or like pain in my legs.
Oh,
like,
that's your sign?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's like an old person when the rain's about to happen and they feel it in their knee. You're like, my hip, oh God,
like,
I need to relax.
I gotta take a week off.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So I just like have started to, you have to take like intentional rest, which is what I've started to tell some of the newer paramedics that have come on. Like it starts to take a toll on you and you think
not
that
just
you
like
can
your 4 days
nonstop.
off. Like
yeah, because even with your 4 days off, like more recently before I took this month off, it would take me like 2 to 3 full days to recover from working a tour. So you're just like, you're working like 4 14-hour days in a row sometimes. And then you have like, you know, all you do is sleep, you wake up, if you eat, and then you go to work. Sometimes we don't have time to eat at work. So it's like, you're just getting crushed nonstop with calls. And then, you get out late because you're charting or whatever. You get out late because you get a late call. And then you're already there. So it's like, you know what, I might as well help out the system. Like, I'll take another one, you know?
Yeah,
so it's like, and then the other side, like that we were working, like both sides are pretty understaffed right now. But the other side, my 4 days off was really understaffed. So then they'd be like, well, we only have one paramedic.
Oh, so there's like a team
night.
A and a team B.
Yep,
right?
it's A side and B side, yeah.
Okay,
so they
gotcha.
have A side and B side. I was working B side nights, and so A side was pretty understaffed for a while over the summer. So then it's like, oh, well, we only have one paramedic on Tuesday. And it's like, all right, I'll come in. You know what I mean? I might as well. I'm already just running, so.
Is that a problem? I mean, that's a problem with a lot of emergency services, police, firemen.
Yeah.
Like how do you solve something like that, needing more EMTs? And that's a tough job to sell, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a tough job to sell.
Yeah, so especially with paramedics, because you can become an EMT, and we get a lot of EMTs, but then actually having paramedics that like want to work the road, because we get so burned out, so people leave a lot of times to become policemen or firemen because they have a retirement system where we don't.
Why don't you have a retirement system? Are you guys in a union?
No.
Maybe that's why, right? Don't police have a union?
I think so. And then there's a union for AMR out in Rochester and Buffalo, but they're like really crappy unions. So it like has kind of scared everyone away from unions here because their unions were written really unfortunately, where if they have less than 60 hours for the week, they can get mandated. So it's like none of us want that.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, so we don't have a union. So there's no like retirement system. So people leave to have like a more stable job later on. They'll like leave for the fire service. So we've lost so many people to the fire department.
That's got to affect like the whole 911 system,
100%.
Right?
Yeah. So like last summer I was working out in Manoa. Like I'd do my 24s. You remember when I was doing 24s for a while?
Yeah.
So I'd work out in Manoa sometimes.
24-hour shifts. I was like, is that legal? And you're like, oh yeah, it's fine. I do them all the time. I'm like, what? All the time? That's a normal thing for your job?
Yeah, like when we were working, like in the city, we usually do 12s. You can't work more than 18 hours in the city at once. But that's like, if you're at Waves, which is Camillus, and you're the closest ambulance to the city, when the city starts dropping calls because we're understaffed,
right?
You go like Waves gets next call, or
so
Eves
there's
gets
systems
next call.
in place. Like if there's too many ambulances out, North Syracuse steps up to the plate.
Yeah, so it's all based on distance. The 911 system, when you call 911, they know your location. They have an AVL. They look at where every ambulance is situated in Onondaga County, and they see, okay, all of the AMR rigs are on calls. So then it's like, all right, who's the next closest ambulance? It all goes by distance. So wherever you are, when you're available as an ambulance, you could be at AMR, you could be driving around, whatever. If you are the closest ambulance to a 911 call, you get sent. So then if AMR is tapped out, then the next closest ambulance will go. So there was one night in Manoa, it happened several times, but I was in Manoa 3 o'clock in the morning. I get called to a falls call in Solvay, which is a very long distance. Like I've had response times of like 37 minutes before, where you're waiting for an ambulance.
That's wild.
For like a really long time.
Wild.
Yeah.
I've already talked to you in length when Ashton went through a seizure, and that ambulance, the police was there. A police officer was at my front door within like 3.5 minutes of me making the call 911, and the ambulance was probably like 8 or 9 minutes. So I consider myself pretty lucky. Yeah. But 35 minutes could be like life or death for somebody if they're bleeding out. Like,
for sure.
Like is like your job trying to attract those people to the job? Like there's gotta be some kind of incentive, something to bring people into the job.
Every once in a while they'll do like a sign-on bonus. They'll do like a $10,000 sign-on bonus if you sign on for a year, or they'll do raises. They just did raises back in February, so the raise was like relatively significant. So then we got a bunch of staff for a little while. The schedule was completely full, couldn't pick up a shift. Then people trickle out, people get injured, whatever. So then like over the summer, always over the summer, it starts to trickle out, and then we get really understaffed. Or even if sometimes we'll be relatively staffed in the system, we'll just dump all at once and everybody calls 911 all at the same time. There's just like no control over it, you know? Right.
What, when you see those newbies that are coming on to the team again, what qualities can you tell is like going to make a good EMS?
People who are definitely, I would say, like strong-willed, and then not many of us like cry at work. We don't really like have the time. So there'll be like,
not me, fam. I'd be crying after every call.
I think I've cried like
every call.
I cried during paramedic class a lot. But like actually at work, I think I've cried like twice. But you can kind of tell when they go through the EMT class. Some people are really like shy and really like reserved, which isn't necessarily always the best.
A good thing.
Yeah, so we'll like try to like kind of get them in there and be like, okay, go, like ask them questions and stuff. And then people who are like hardworking, I mean, it's like really rigorous. We do so many calls in a shift sometimes.
How many do you average, do you think, like in your 1 12-hour shift?
In a 12-hour shift, we'd run anywhere between like 8 to 12. Yeah.
Literally one every hour.
Yeah. We're like turning and burning as much as we can.
Start to finish. When you're with somebody, is it about an hour, or is it like
give or take? Yeah, it just depends. Like it depends on the severity of the injury or illness, and then it depends on the hospital systems. The hospitals sometimes get really backed up, so we have to wait for a room depending on the condition of the patient. If we can dump them in the waiting room, sometimes we do that. If their like condition is okay enough where we can bring them to the waiting room and we can leave, but we have to bring our stretcher with us. So if they don't have somewhere for us to put our patient on a bed, they have to sit on the stretcher until we have room to bring
Interesting.
Bring them over. Yeah.
And when you're picking someone up to bring them somewhere, are you bringing them to a specific hospital, or are you locked into one, or is it many? Is it just the closest hospital you bring them to?
So it depends. We have to know all of the capabilities of every hospital. So,
Whoa.
yeah. So then it's based upon what hospital they want to go to. Usually for anything relatively simple, we're like, all right, what hospital do you want to go to? And they say, I want to go to St. Joe's. Cool. Sounds good. We'll go there. But if it's like a neurological issue, if they're having a stroke, St. Joe's doesn't do neurology. They don't do anything from like the neck up. They don't do ENT.
Right.
They don't do neuro. So we'll bring them to, we'll suggest Upstate or Crouse because they're both comprehensive stroke centers. Community doesn't really do a whole lot.
Damn, I know you're just like rattling this off the top of your head. It's so impressive. How are you like you're just like, yep, this one does this. Yep, they can do this. This one can do open heart surgery. This one cannot. But that's just, how many years have you been doing this?
About 7, I think.
7 years.
Yeah.
So like,
so you just kind of get to know it after a while. There's like 4 hospitals. It's really not that intense. Upstate's the trauma center. It's a trauma center for a while. The closest trauma center to here is like Rochester. Strong is a trauma center, and then Albany has a trauma center. So all traumas go to Upstate. That's where the pediatric center is. That's where the burn center is. They have the hyperbaric chambers. So like carbon monoxide poisoning, most of those major things go to Upstate. If you're having a heart attack, you can go to Upstate, Crouse, or St. Joe's. So it all kind of depends. So like we'll ask you where you want to go. But if it's something very specific where you need like a specialist, we'll know who can do what.
I never get political on this podcast, but one thing I'm always voiced about is how completely messed up the healthcare system is. So like, how does that affect your job at all? Like the way that the healthcare system is?
Yeah.
Could it be better, or am I just looking at it from an outside perspective?
I think it definitely could be better. I feel like working within a broken healthcare system is really difficult, and a lot of people will take some of these things personally, especially like on the job. People will get frustrated with people who are like more of like a regular caller, or people who they call 911, they go to the hospital for something that seems like it might not be like super urgent or important enough to warrant an emergency room visit, or at least like right now, especially when our system is dumping, we have more important calls to go on. When in reality, they either don't have insurance or they can't get into a doctor's office. You know, there's things where people will be like, oh, go see your primary care. Well, a lot of people don't have a primary care, and they don't like have access to a primary care. So that's not always the solution. So then our hospital systems get backed up because of the insurance
people don't
system.
Have exactly.
And then people don't have a primary care. They could maybe go to the Syracuse Community Health Center, but even then, like sometimes they send them out to the hospital pretty frequently. You can't get an appointment within like a couple of weeks, you know. I mean, it's so hard to get into a specialist a lot of times. So people will be like, oh, well, I called my cardiologist and I can't get in for another like 4 weeks. So then it's like, you know. So
that's wild.
Those things can definitely be taxing, where other people can be like, oh, well, this is crappy. Like we shouldn't have to transport them to the hospital. But it's like they really aren't given a choice. You know, they're kind of backed against a corner, and the system isn't actually designed to help you most of the time.
I just don't appreciate the fact it's like, I look at like good point. My grandmother was just in the hospital for 4 days. She got very sick. Didn't know why. She went to the hospital, ran all these tests. She didn't have to pay this full bill, but the bill was $23,000.
Yeah, it's insane.
$23,000 for 4 nights of stay, and like blood work test, an X-ray, and like a CAT scan. And it's like, how does this total $22,000? And my grandmother has to pay like $1,000. It's like, it's this weird idea. Is like, my grandmother did not choose to get sick. Yeah. It's like, what? Like, now she has to deal with the cost, the burden, right? The burden of cost. Where like, grandma's fortunate that she can pay her copay. There's a lot of people who get sick with cancer and like can't afford the treatments, but they didn't ask for the cancer. That's like my gripe with the healthcare system. It's just like, why can't we just can we just help each other instead of like making this a business model to make money off people, rather than like, and I understand that like public health care has its flaws too, but at the same time, I just don't feel it's right for that struggling family of 4 who has to deal with, I don't know, a heart attack, or like these people didn't ask for that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we constantly will have patients where they'll be like, I don't want to go, and they have to go. And I'm like, you're going to die if you stay home. You're like, you have to understand those risks. They're able to answer a series of questions like, do you know like where you are? What's your name? What city are we in? You know, like your orientation questions. If they can answer all of the questions and reiterate to me, like, I understand that there's a risk of death if I stay home, I'm fine with that. Then I can't do anything. My hands are tied. They're a legal adult. They can make their own decisions. They have the mental capacity to refuse
That's got to be
medical care.
hard though to walk away
Super
from
hard.
that, huh?
So we like talk about it, and then of course family members will get upset, and I'll be like, why? Like, what's holding you back from going to the hospital? Like, you know, you have to go.
Is it always
and
insurance?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're like, I can't afford it. And they're like, how much is the ambulance bill? And I'm like, honestly, I have no idea. And they're like, well, I can't afford an ER visit because it's so expensive. And I'm like, maybe, you know, and I always try to say like, let's not worry about that right now. And I'm like, but that is something that people worry about, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely tough where we walk away from situations where, you know, somebody has to go to the hospital. They know they have to go. And, you know, there's nothing you can do.
That's when I cry in the car, in the ambulance on the way back. I'm like tearing up and crying on the way back.
Yeah.
That would be so emotionally. You know, fun fact, I thought about becoming a police officer.
Ooh.
Did you ever know that?
No.
Glad I didn't, because I would not be able to do that thankless
It's really
job.
tough.
Especially with the story you told me of the dude with a knife in his head, I would have vomited. I would have walked on the scene and been like, "Hey, there's a knife sticking out of your head." I don't know how you have the mental capacity to deal with these things.
I feel like there's so much compartmentalization that just starts to happen,
for sure,
where like
right?
your brain cannot handle that much all at once. So it's just like, especially with a patient if they do have a knife in their head or they have a knife sticking out of their body, you walk up on scene and then there's so many things going through your head all at once, where it's like, I literally don't have time to process this, where it's like, I have to make a series of split-second decisions, and we have so much to do in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So you process all of it later, where a lot of times, like, after the call, you'll like transport, especially like a very intense high acuity call where you do a lot of interventions, a lot of stuff. You call the hospital, you're doing interventions all the way there, and you're like, you know, saving somebody's life. You get there, and then afterwards, after you transfer care, you kind of like calm down, and you're just like, okay. And then you can like decompress a little bit, clean the stretcher, clean the ambulance that's completely covered in blood. Ugh. You have a couple minutes, and you're just like, okay. And then I think like a huge thing is that the delayed trauma response is about 3 days, which we like have talked about a little bit.
Delayed trauma effect, like,
yeah. So like, there are some times where things happen like immediately, and you'll notice it. I have one time where I cried immediately after a call. And I'd just taken my paramedic test. I was still an EMT. I didn't have my card yet. I didn't have my paramedic card yet. So I was working with another paramedic, thankfully. 'Cause you know, you're like still nervous, like going in. So I was working with another paramedic, and we got dispatched to a shooting on the west side. And it was just like the note. So our system at AMR is different from the 911 system. The 911 system, they get the 911 call. If it's in the city of Syracuse, they drop the call down to our dispatch, and then they will accumulate some notes for us out of the 911 notes, and then they'll drop it onto like our little computer. So we don't get as much, like we don't get as much information. So I was coming from East Post. I was driving, and the system like dumped all at once. So I was like moving from East Post to Central, and then a shooting went out. The Central Post rig was going there, and it was, we didn't know like the street. So we were just like, what street? Most of the streets we know, but it was like a side street off of a side street. So we were like trying to look it up. We couldn't find it, but we knew like one of the streets. So we were like, all right, let's just like head that way, and then we'll like find the cross street. So the other rig was supposed to be the first vehicle in on this shooting. And then we were just dispatched as a second vehicle in on a possible shooting. So like we weren't even sure if it was confirmed that anybody was shot. So we were like on our way there, and we are always told to stage for calls like this. Like we stage for police until they say that it's safe for us to enter the scene. So we're like staged, and we're like waiting. The fire department is like, we all like wait for police to be like, hey, it's okay, you guys can come in, and then we can take the patient. Cool.
Oh, so the police are making sure
that like, that everything is fine. And so we get cleared to enter after like a little bit. So I'm driving. So I like pull up to this scene. Like there's like a bunch of fire trucks. My supervisor's car is there. Tons of police cars. There's like the street is like completely blocked. So we pull in and I was like, where's the other ambulance? And my partner was like, I don't know. And I was like, no, like where's the other ambulance? We're supposed to be the second vehicle in. Where the fuck are they? And he was like, I don't know. And so I was like, all right, well, we'll like figure it out. So like we have no information. So we like get out and I was like, where, like, what are we doing? Like, is somebody shot? Like how many people?
Yeah.
Like what's going on? So he's like, I don't know, like let's just pull the stretcher and we'll like figure it out. And I was like, cool, sounds good. So I like get to the back of the rig, open the doors. I'm pulling the stretcher out. My supervisor was like, hey, fire department's going to bring the patient to you. Cool. Then I turn around and a cop was like, hey, I'll bring you over to the patient. They're right over here. And I was like, wait, what? And then I turn again and the fire department was like, hey, squad is going to bring the patient to you. And I was like, I don't know what's happening.
What do I do?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, right.
So I like look at my partner and I was like, and he was like, I don't know, just like pull the stretcher. So I'm pulling the stretcher and I turn around and I see this super tall cop sprinting towards me with a 6-year-old who was shot in the back. And I was like, and I was just like, like you on the body cam footage, you can see me going, okay. So I was just like, it was like the processing of like, oh my gosh, like, okay.
A kid was shot.
Yeah. So we had no idea. Right. So we weren't given that information. We didn't know that anybody was shot with. This was a possible shooting. We weren't even supposed to be the first ambulance there. We were just like, oh, okay. So I like lowered the stretcher and he like put the kid down and we were just like, all right. And so then like, it was just chaos. So like, one of the guys from the fire department was like trying to put the stretcher in the rig and like it wasn't going in because it wasn't latched. It wasn't like up high enough. So he's like ramming it into the back of the rig and I was like, hey, calm down. Like it's not in the ambulance. And he was like, no, I got it. And I was like, it's not in the ambulance yet. Like just like step aside, like calm down. And he's like, you know what I mean? When the emotions are so high and the situation is so tense, a lot of times people can't think, you know?
They are just nervous.
Yeah,
like,
super nervous. Of course, it's a 6-year-old, you know? Like we're all like shaking.
Yeah.
And so but like at that point, like it's just if you're freaking out, you got to go. Like you got to step out of the way. So I ended up like kind of pushing him out of the way, raised the stretcher. We got the kid in the ambulance. He got in. I told him to get out. And then my partner and my supervisor hopped in and they were like, we're good to go. Cool. So I got up front and I drove. And I was driving down Shawnard Street. So Shawnard turns into East Adams, which is like, gets you right to upstate. So it's like a one shot. Like, one shot, same street all the way there. And I think we were only on scene for like 2.5 minutes, which is absolutely incredible. We got there, got the kid in the rig, we were gone. And so I was like driving and I've never, still to this day, like have never had this happen since I had. So cops were flying by me. We like got in the rig and we left. And so we're like driving lights and sirens and all these cops were flying by me. And at every single intersection from the scene to upstate, I had 2 cops blocking off the street at every single intersection. So I didn't have to stop.
Whoa.
And it was just like, I just like got chills.
Yeah.
And so we like got there, of course, and then like transferred care. And I was just like, you know, where it's like you have that moment where it's like, okay, like everything kind of comes down. We've transferred care, but it's just like, what was that? Like,
so the moments after, like you transfer this the care of the kid into the hospital's hand, what is said? Like, what do you do in the ambulance after that's done? Like, I feel like it's just like, I don't want to answer a call. Like, I just need, like, I need a minute. I need like the rest of my shift to process that. So you said 2-minute call plus, so 15 minutes we'll call it, right? From start to finish.
Yeah,
like
less
this.
than.
Like this.
It happens like that. It's so fast. So we were like, we were on scene for about 2 minutes. We waited for a little bit to come into the scene. We were on scene for like 2.5 minutes, and it probably took me 3 minutes to get to upstate. So it was like we had that kid for such a short amount of time, which is fantastic. Got him right where he needed to be. Got him into the trauma room. We give a report. The trauma team takes over, and then it's like, okay, now I have to clean all of this blood off of my stretcher, which is just horrible.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like, you know, I'll never forget that this kid was wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle t-shirt.
Yeah.
And And so like, and then like you see your friends who are just like incredible as they're walking into the hospital with a different patient, and they're like, hey, how you doing? And you're like, not great.
Not good.
Not great.
Yeah.
And they're like, I understand. So
Yeah.
like they'll give you a hug and stuff. And then you kind of like get to the ambulance and it's just trashed. There's just stuff everywhere. Just
right.
everywhere. And it's like you got to clean everything up. And it's like you just take a minute to like decompress. And then it's like you can just, that's something to focus on, where it's like, all right, I can just clean some stuff, throw things away, you know, count like the things that we used, write it down, which definitely like kind of like helps you just kind of get through the next steps and like through the motions of like continuing on after that.
Right.
And then my partner came out and he was like, hey, that didn't bother you, did it? And I go, yeah, I mean, it definitely did. And he was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, me too. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to say that didn't. I don't need to go home, but like, I'm not going to say that didn't
That I'm cool.
affect me. And he was like, yeah, same. And I was like, cool. Glad we're on the same page.
I know you're like big into like meditation and stuff. Has it helped you kind of process it, or does it just help you be like at peace with this all?
Yeah, I feel like I started meditating about like a year or two ago, and the more regularly I do it, especially before work, it's definitely helped me like with the burnout, where I come into work as like my best self, and I come in from like a place where I have a little bit more of a different perspective, or I feel like the things just kind of roll off a little bit easier, where you can just know that like in those moments you do absolutely everything you can, and if it's not enough, sometimes it's just not enough, you know? But yeah, with the delayed trauma response, it usually is about 3 days. So we went back to work. We like, our supervisor pulled us back a little bit later in the shift, but it was busy. So like we had to keep taking calls. We were like, he was like, if you need to take a break, you let me know, I'll pull you off the road. And we were like, no, we should be good. We'll be all right. Did a couple more calls. He brought us back. We talked about it. Cause it was, you know, a crazy incident. And so we like talked about it for a little bit. And then 3 days later, he texted me and he asked me if I was okay. And I was like, oh, like no other supervisor would do that.
Yeah.
And it was just like really nice to have that support, where it was like 3 days later, he texted me and asked me if I was okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing all right.
That's like the rule of thumb, is like it hits you 3 days later.
Yeah. About 3 days later is kind of when everything kind of like comes down and starts to like actually hit you and affect you if it's going to.
Right.
So like having that support, and then like having people in positions of leadership that will check in on you 3 days later, you know, instead of treating you like you're just another employee or just a number, and just like going and taking calls, which happens.
Especially when you are in a very stressful job, where I could imagine the turnover rate being very high in your job, like always having new people, because of how difficult your job is, like mentally and physically. I sell houses. Okay. I'm not helping a 6-year-old who just shot. Like that's a whole nother thing to like have to deal with. Do you know what I mean? Wow, that's heavy, huh?
Yeah.
Holy
Sorry.
shit. Wow. No, that's just I'm glad you shared that story. It's a lot, 'cause I just don't think people realize how thankless of a job emergency service is, especially like police right now, especially with everything that's been going on. Firefighters always looking for people, EMTs. I'm sure like the turnover's got to be crazy because of the situations you guys are constantly in. I'm never having to deal with somebody with a knife sticking out of their skull. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not part of my job. And how do you deal with that? That's tough.
I feel like intentional rest is like what I've like pushed
to everybody.
Lately. Yeah, where I'm like, you have to like make the rest very intentional, and not just like, you know, sitting in bed scrolling on your phone. I doing things for you, going to the gym. Jiu-jitsu has definitely helped, where you like release those endorphins, or like knowing what your body needs on a day to day. Like if I need serotonin, I'll like make a list of chores that I want or have to do, and I check every single one of them off so that I can like feel a little bit better. You know what I mean? Right. And then like, or if I like feel like I need to do yoga to like help with my hip pain because I'm burned out.
Yeah, because you're burned out, or because it's gonna rain tomorrow.
And the meditation has definitely helped. I feel like taking those like periods of time to just find silence and stillness has definitely like improved at least my perspective about everything all around.
Everyone's meditation process seems a little bit different. Are you comfortable sharing what yours is? I know sometimes people hold it very close to their heart. What does your process look like?
Ooh, especially when it's like nice out and I can sit in the grass. Like I'll always take my shoes off. I'll put my feet in the grass to like start, and then I'll just like sit and kind of like I'll do box breathing for a little while, and I'll like do like in for a count of 4. Sometimes I'll start with like 4 in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4,
2,
out for a
3,
count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Yeah. And so I'll like box breathe, and then I'll try to get up to like 10 seconds. Sometimes that can be really difficult, but like controlling your breath and like learning how to control your breath has definitely like helped in that sense, and just feeling like I'm really like grounded into the earth, and that like the earth has my back, you know? And just like the feeling of like being grounded has definitely really helped me. The box breathing helps, and I feel like
now is this 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half hour?
I feel like typically when I go through my like entire process, I'll like look at a timer after. It's usually about like 25 minutes is like where I'll like end up where I'm like, okay, you know what? Why? Because usually my legs will start to fall asleep.
Yeah,
my hips are tight.
Right.
And my legs will fall asleep, and then like eventually there are times where it's way more difficult than other days. There's times where I have these like crazy out of body experiences where it like happens for a while, and like definitely have some like interesting experiences like that. Some days it's definitely difficult, and you just kind of feel like
you feel like you're just kind of like going through the motions, really?
Yeah, and it just feels like it's not necessarily like the best meditation session, but like at least I sat down and gave myself that time, you know? Because like that I feel like is so important, is like allowing yourself to have that rest.
I haven't done it in a long time. I used to do it regularly when I worked at the PetSmart in Ithaca. They transferred me there for 8 months, and it was the worst place I've ever worked for. Not PetSmart as a company. I liked working for PetSmart. It was a great first job. But the store I was at was a cesspool. It was just terrible, full of negative energy.
Yeah.
So I used to, because the drive was an hour and 15 minutes, but along the way home, there was this bridge I would go over, and they had this little park section where like there was a stream, and I found you could park, and they had a path that was like a quarter of a mile. So like I would walk to the end of it, and there was a bench that I would just sit at and just take 5 minutes to do box breathing.
Yep.
And I have not done it in a long time because I haven't had to deal with that much negativity in my life, that I was just like, I need to breathe for a bit.
Yeah.
I need the time to myself for a bit.
Yeah. Which I just think is so wonderful and so beautiful, is like just taking that time for yourself, especially when you know you need. You can feel it. You can feel when you need it.
Yeah. There's people have telltale signs. Like for some people it's their hip. Other people it's like myself. I can tell I get a little grumpy when I don't take the time to do like jiujitsu every week. I can tell. Like COVID really shined a light on that, on my Achilles heel, which was if I don't have something physical to do, my attitude is completely 180. Like I get short with people that I'm not like that ever.
No, never.
Because I work, like I'm going to jiu-jitsu once a week, or I'm teaching once a week, and then COVID took that away, and I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't lifting weights in place of that anymore. I was just kind of navigating life, and it really shined a light that I needed some kind of physical activity to do to basically expend my energy, and it changed my attitude 100%.
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of, I feel like what happened over the summer was I was working so much, and I was working nights, so it was hard to come into class because, you know, my shift would start at like 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., which is when class typically starts. Then I wasn't making it to noon class because I was sleeping most of the time during noon. So it was like I couldn't make it into jiu-jitsu a lot over this past summer. So I was just working so much. And then it got to a point where I came in for a class and I was like, oh my God, I needed that so badly.
Yeah.
Like I
and you walked out, you feel the sun on your skin, and you're like, I'm walking on sunshine.
Yes, I was like, I feel so good. I was like, I needed those endorphins so bad.
Has jiu-jitsu helped in your EMS career?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, so most people know that I did the kids class when I was young, and then I kind of like stopped doing it for a while. My dad tried to get me back like once or twice like over the years, but then during the pandemic, it was June of 2020. I was still working with my partner, Ashley. She was the one that I started with when I was a brand new paramedic. So this was like our first 6 months. We started in January, and by June, like we had become very close, and they used to call us the dream team at Upstate. They're like, oh, dream team's here, and we were like, hey, because we brought in like every nasty trauma. Like we brought in all of the good calls. So they'd be like, hey, you gonna bring us something good later? And we were like, oh yeah. We were like, we sure will. Yeah. Oh, we loved it. Yeah. Everybody else hated us because we got every good call, and they're like, it's always you. And
your
like,
perception of good call and my perception of good call, vastly different.
Yeah.
Vastly different. Yeah.
But we always we were working nights, and this was also a period of time where the police force was severely understaffed. So it was like June of 2020. This had been like, Ashley had gotten punched in the face like 5 times in 6 months, I think.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Holy
so
cow.
like it gets like, we get into some really, really unfortunate situations a lot of the time. And most of the time when they send an ambulance, they don't send police. Like we go into calls by ourselves all the time.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah. Like
really?
I would say majority of our calls, we don't have a police response.
They sent a police officer when Ashton had a seizure, and that was like nothing.
Yeah.
That was like nothing. So put that police on another call so Ashley doesn't get punched in the face. Jeez, man.
I know. I felt so bad. Yeah, she was, yeah. Oh, poor thing. She should come to jiu-jitsu.
Has helped, at least in some aspect.
Yeah, so we were on a call. We went to a call on the north side at like 4:00 in the morning for like chest pain, and we got there and we just could tell that like the vibe was off. This guy had been doing cocaine and heroin all night, and he was having chest pain. So like my main concern is that you might be having a heart attack because of the cocaine. It can increase myocardial oxygen demand. You might have a heart attack. So like we have to give aspirin, do a 12 lead, all these things, check to make sure you're not having a heart attack, bring you to the hospital. And he was just like super uncooperative. So we're just like trying to get him into the ambulance and stuff. He like sat on the floor. He wasn't listening. I gave him the aspirin, and I was like, here, like, and I had an EMT student with me. So I was like explaining to her why I'm doing all these interventions. Like here are the risks. And like, this is why.
Now the EMT couldn't give the aspirin out?
They can, but I was doing it. So like EMTs can, but like it's going to be my call because I'm putting them on the cardiac monitor. Cardiac monitor is an ALS scale. So there's ALS and BLS. ALS is for paramedic, BLS EMT. So it's advanced life support. So I'm doing like a 12 lead. I'm doing an IV. I'm giving them aspirin and like doing all this stuff because EMTs can't read EKGs. So like I can like print out an EKG, read it, make sure they're not having a heart attack. So we're like doing all this stuff, and I like go to give him the aspirin, and he was like, okay. And I like tell him why he needs it, and he was like, okay. And he takes it from my hand and he drops it on the floor. And I was like, okay. So I was just like, okay, well, don't do that. And then he was like, no, like, give me the aspirin. Like, I'm sorry. And he like apologizes a bunch. And I was like, okay, like, as long as you take it, like you need, like, this is important. Like
you might die.
Aspirin is so important, especially for chest pain calls. So I don't want to give him the stuff that is now on the ambulance floor because that's nasty. So I take 4 more aspirin out of the thing, and I hand it to him, and he drops it on the ground in front of me again. I was like, okay. And
I would pick the one off the ground and say, now you're eating this one. This is the one you get now.
Happened 3 times. 3 times I did it again. 3 times? Drops it on the floor again, and I was like, okay, well, you're done. You're not getting aspirin anymore. And he was like, no, I want it. And I was like, no, you're done. I'm done. And
you can take it off the floor, dude.
So then I was like, all right, like I was like, I'm done with this. Like he's like so back and forth, so uncooperative. I was going to do an IV, maybe sedate him a little bit, but it's just like, it can be like a little risky sometimes. But I was like, he's obvious, like he's getting really agitated, and then he'll like calm down, get agitated, calm down. So I was like, he was so back and forth. So I
put him in an arm bar, showed him what's up.
So I was like, all right, let's just get him in some seatbelts. We'll just bring him to the hospital. He wants to go to Krause. Like, let's just go. Like, let's just leave. And he wouldn't let us put seatbelts on him. And I was like, okay, well, this ambulance isn't going anywhere until you put seatbelts on. Like, we have to have seatbelts. Sorry, it's a moving vehicle. You got to wear seatbelts. Like, I don't make the rules. And he's like, I'm not doing it. So we're like in a back and forth argument. We're arguing with each other. And I'm like, okay, well, this ambulance isn't moving. So then Ashley was like, do you want police to come? And I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, at this point, like, we might as well. Like, we don't need him on a priority. He's just being really like difficult. So we use we have 10 codes for certain things. Like if you want to ask for something, in a discreet way. We have like certain codes that we can use over the radio so that they don't really know what we're like saying.
Yeah.
So we like, I use my
I need
10
a code 10 is like,
Yes.
this asshole's being mean to me.
Yeah, so I just like asked for police non-priority for, you know, for
code whatever.
Yeah, I was like, he's just uncooperative. So he just goes, why don't you just send him on a priority? I already have warrants out. And I was like, oh, okay, this is sick.
Cool.
I was like, yeah. I'm like, cool. And I was like, this is going super well. So then he like starts to get like a little bit more agitated, and he was like, no, just send him on priority. And he's like getting like, he's like starting to get worked up, and I like have my narcotics out. So we have a box of narcotics that like I carry. So I have ketamine, I have Versed, I have morphine and fentanyl. So like to sedate them. So like I would use...
shit. Okay. I'm like, why do you have that?
So we have like for morphine and fentanyl, we use it for
morphine
like pain,
makes sense to me.
Pain management. But yeah, like so midazolam is another name for Versed. We use it for seizures. It's a benzodiazepine. So you can use it for to stop a seizure and or sedate someone. And then ketamine we use for sedation. Or if you're gonna, it's called RSI. If somebody is not breathing well and you want to like knock them out and put a tube down their throat to breathe for them, then we use like medications like that for those types of things. So I got my narc box out, and Ashley was like, and I was like, yeah, like we got it at this point. Like he like will not calm down. So I like drew up my Versed, and then he's like freaking out. And so then we like go to sedate him. And so we're trying to like kind of like hold him down. He flips out naturally. I was expecting it, but he like grabbed Ashley by her throat and like dragged her onto the stretcher. So now we're like full blown fighting in the ambulance. And then he like grabbed her radio and pressed the emergency activation button. So it like lets them know that we're in like a situation where we need help now.
Oh, he didn't even mean to press that.
So he's pressing it and he's just screaming his like name and date of birth into the radio. And he's like, 911, help. And we were like, we are 911. And then like he's like punching us. We're like full blown brawl. I felt so bad for my EMT student. She was standing in the corner, and she like tried to help, and I was like, no. Like her mom dropped her off at the station. Like her mom dropped her off, and I was like, oh my god, like this person is my sole responsibility. This human being that is my EMT student, she did not sign up for this today.
Yeah.
Like, so she went to help, and I was like, we've got it. Like, we're good. We can handle ourselves. Like, just stand there. So she just like stood in the corner and was sobbing, and I felt so bad. So she's just standing in the corner crying while Ashley and I are getting beat up. So we're like in a full blown fight, and then like our radio is like 116, like what's your status? And I was like, we need police.
Getting our ass kicked.
Yeah, like we're like, we need some help.
Yeah.
And so it's just like full blown, and then like he's grabbing me, he's grabbing my shirt, he's grabbing my radio. So he'd like grab Ashley. I'm trying to get him off her. I'm like, let go, dude, like calm down. And then like the second he would let go of Ashley, he'd like grab me. So like Ashley went to punch him, and then he grabbed me and she punched me, and I was like, we are on the same team.
Yeah, we are on the same team. Did your jiu-jitsu help you?
I wasn't training back then.
Oh, you weren't doing jiu-jitsu,
No, so this was like pre-Thai. I mean, I did it when I was a kid, but like I didn't do any jiu-jitsu.
You're out of
back
practice
then.
at that point.
I mean, I had been 15 years, you know.
Yeah.
So we were just trying to like manage the situation, hold him down. The first police unit that showed up just like was like, yo, get out of the way. And he pulled his taser out, and I've never jumped out of an ambulance so fast. I was like, I am not getting tased. So then after that situation, I was like covered in bruises, and so I had to tell my dad. So like the next day I was like, I sat my dad down, and I was like, hey, so like I have to tell you something. And he was like, okay. And I was like, so Ashley and I got beat up last night by a crackhead on the north side. And he was like, you're going back to jiu-jitsu. And I was like, okay, fair.
Yeah.
So like that's why I started training again.
Was because you got your ass
because of that. Yeah, that's literally like the sole, like I feel like that event changed so many things in my life. But like, you know, we were so fortunate that we didn't get more hurt. He wasn't bigger. Like you know what I mean? That like it could have been so much worse. Nobody got severely injured. So that was wonderful. And that's what got me back into Thai Chi. And I feel like since then there's been so many situations where I've used jiu-jitsu, and that has like significantly helped. Mm-hmm. Just like training regularly and like knowing like kind of what to do to control a situation just enough to like make everything safe. But like, yeah, that was the turning point that got me back in.
Now the difference being like with you now doing jiu-jitsu, do you feel like your confidence is better? Have you been in a situation where you've been able to use your jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, actually over this past summer, twice in one night, and of course I was like texting Mike because like I was like, I had gone to a call on the south side. It was like a guy who was on a bunch of drugs. The synthetic marijuana will get like really nasty every once in a while. There'll be like new ingredients, new batches and stuff. So you can always tell where these patients get like insanely combative. So this batch of Spike over this past summer was crazy, where they'd be like really, really, really combative and then like profoundly hypotensive. So they would like fight and then they would like almost die. And it was like just insane.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was like really a lot to manage and a lot to deal with. So I had one patient that he was just like kind of rolling around in a parking lot where we knew that he was going to start swinging. And he was like relatively fit, but he was just like not really with it. So I was training a new paramedic. So like now it's his job to use the narcotics. So like he was, and it's like my job to like hold the patient down while he gives the narcs. So and of course my partner was like, he's like 6'5". He's like a big dude. And then I was like,
hey dude, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this?
So I was like, all right, get your drugs out. And he's like, okay. So I did a classic neon belly, and I just like held an arm down. So I like held an arm down, did neon belly, and it worked so well. And then he sedated him, and we just kind of like, I just kind of sat there like neon belly for a couple minutes until he started to like calm down enough. And then we like picked him up and put him on the stretcher and like got him into the rig.
Do you feel like there's an air of confidence now?
Yeah, I feel like there's just, I mean, we train so much. We train self-defense a lot, which is so great about Thai Kais. We train self-defense so frequently. And there's so many different tools that we have, you know? And like with jiu-jitsu, you can mess up a couple of times and still like get back into a dominant position or whatever. Of course, I'm not like necessarily like on the ground rolling with people or anything like that. But that was like one where it was like, I know neon belly is super safe. That's another thing. It's like I've had calls like over the summer. I had a call where the police called us for a transport, and we got there and they were holding a patient. They had him on his stomach. So they had their knee into his back, and I just got there and I was like, God damn it. Oh. And I was like, no, like you can't do that. Like we can't do that. Cause like, especially people who are like more excited, and we like, there's more like agitated patients that may be on drugs, whatever, or having like a psychological episode. Their breathing rate is a lot faster sometimes. So we never are allowed to transport somebody on their stomach, just because we
could
like
basically affect the breathing.
Yeah, it can affect the breathing rate, positional asphyxiation, and then they can die. So like holding a patient like that and putting your knee into their back is obviously not safe. But like, guess what? Neon belly, so safe. Yeah. So safe. Mm-hmm. Love it. Yeah. And it's like just knowing that is so amazing for you, for your safety, for their safety.
Neon belly's like great when you're the one doing when Chris Roach is doing neon belly to me,
the worst.
I wish I had a diaper on when he is giving me neon belly.
You
know, so it's a great way to control a situation.
Fantastic way to control a situation. And like with neon belly, you have one leg up, you can disengage, you can run, you're not like committing to something that you can't get yourself out of. And then it's great to control someone in a way that's not going to legitimately hurt them.
Somebody, yeah.
So love neon belly. And then later that night, I had a patient who ended up like freaking out in the hospital and was like, definitely had some sort of like neurological medical issue going on. Lost his mind in the hospital, was punching the like walls and stuff, and then like got up, ran down the hallway. One of the nurses like dragged him back towards the stretcher, and things got like a little bit, like things started to get like really physical, and like there's nobody around and I'm standing right there, and it's just like things started to get out of hand and everything happened so quickly. So it just like it just happened so fast. I ended up getting a Kimura grip on him, so I was able to control like most of his upper body, and then I did the outside foot not like a foot sweep, but a trip. A leg trip. Yeah. So I like hooked his leg, tripped him onto the stretcher with the Kimura grip, got on top of him, and was like able to control like most of his upper body.
I love that, because it's, I'm sure like as a female, you probably get a lot of prejudice as being the EMS. I would imagine a lot of female like police officers get some sort of prejudice against them. And I love that you're like kicking ass and taking names.
It was so great because at the time my partner was like 6'5", and he's just like standing there looking like, pretty, damn. And I'm like, let's go. Yeah. But it's like,
I just saw Maddie take this guy's arm off.
And like training, of course, like whenever I do like a move where I'm like trying to hit something, I hit a good sweep. Dennis is always like, jiu-jitsu. So
Yeah.
it's like ingrained into my brain. So it's like, I'm in the hospital and I'm like, do not yell jiu-jitsu after you like just.
Yeah. You have to hip toss a 200-pound man. If I was in that situation, I hip tossed a 250-pound man, I would for sure be going, jiu-jitsu. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Do you like constantly face like the prejudice of being a female EMS?
Yeah, so for a while it was like once I got cleared out on the road, I noticed it after a little bit where I had to work twice as hard as any of the other guys in my class. And so like I would definitely graduated like me and then one of our other female providers, Mel, were the best in our class. And then like I feel like it helped me a lot because I had an amazing preceptor and I learned so much from him. But then like once you get cleared out on your own, when did I get cleared? I think I was like 24. I think I was 24. So I obviously look really young. I'm short. I look young. Of course, I looked younger then. And it's like, people don't necessarily like, they a lot of times didn't think that I was a paramedic because they're like, especially when I worked with a male provider, a male partner, every single time I would walk on scene, didn't matter where, could be the fire department, it could be nursing home staff, the hospital staff, whatever, they would always automatically look at my partner to give report to them. And they'd be like, no, that's her. And it's like, they're like, oh, at one time I went to the Justice Center and I had a nurse who was like, oh, who's a paramedic? Because the stretcher was so tall, you couldn't see me behind there. So I popped out and I was like, that's me.
Hello. It's me.
I was like, that's me. Because they saw my partner and like his shirt said EMT. And so I popped out and he was like, that's her. And he goes, you're the paramedic? And I go, yep. And he was like, oh. And I was like, yeah. Yeah. What do you need? Like,
next time somebody does that, hip toss them and then go, jiu-jitsu in front of their face.
Yeah. I had a doctor once who literally wouldn't even turn his body in my direction to look at me. Because he would talk to my partner. My partner was a male, and like just wouldn't even look at me because there was absolutely no possible way that I could be the paramedic. Yeah, and it's like so. I feel like a lot of things are relatively subconscious that come from other people. Where I have been treated differently by coworkers because they just don't necessarily think that they think you need help, and I'm like, I don't need help. I'm smarter than you. Yeah. And like I've had supervisors at other agencies where they've come on my call and started to take over patient care and done bad patient care. And I'm like, you wouldn't have done this if this were one of our male employees. Like you wouldn't have stepped over them on a call to touch their monitor and to like do patient care and like not even consult them about it and then provide bad patient care. And then I have to like stand up for myself or argue or advocate for myself and these patients, where I feel like once I started to like notice it a lot and then like constantly people would look to my partner and like nod at me.
You start to notice it more.
You start to notice it more. And then it's like, I noticed it a little bit, but then I didn't really notice it as much as after Ashley and I got attacked. We stopped being partners because I was like, you know what? This isn't necessarily super safe for us. I got a new partner. My new partner was a male. The first week that we worked together, it got to a point where like we were working and he just looked at me and he was like, Maddie, in the 7 years that I've worked here, I've never had anyone treat any of my partners as badly as you've been treated this last week. And I was like, oh, this is just every day.
Wow.
Like, this is every day for me. Yeah. And he was like, oh, what are you going to do? Piss off a doctor next? Because it was just like a series of different people every day. Yeah. And then literally the next call, a doctor came over and like yelled at me and I yelled back at him, where he was like, oh, this patient hasn't been, it was at Krause, and he was like, this patient hasn't been here in like 11 years. Like he normally goes to St. Joe's. Why is he here? And I said, he's here for a neuro eval. And he was like, oh, do you think he's having a stroke? And I go, no, I would have called. And he goes, what is St. Joe's not a hospital? And I said, not one with neuro. And he was like, oh, and like backed off. But it's like, I have to like raise my voice and yell to the point that like, you know what I mean? Where like these people would never talk to some of my like male coworkers this way. And they're just like, and he looked at me and he was like, I wasn't serious. And I was like, I know. I had a nurse push me once because she like got upset. And it's like, you wouldn't do this to anyone because
pushed you.
Yeah, she just kind of like shoved me a little bit. She was like, she was being rude. And then I was just like, my face was like fuming. Yeah.
I can never imagine a situation where someone gets me so mad, I push them. I can never see that happening.
And then it's it's like, you just have to, because then I've told other people and they're like, oh, like if she touched me, like I would have punched her. And it's like, you can't do that.
You can't punch somebody.
You just can't do that. And it's like, I was like so upset, but and like my face was fuming when she pushed me. It was just like one of those where the patient, we were closest to St. Joe's. She was like on a bunch of drugs, wouldn't talk to me. And then I was like, all right, well, the closest hospital is St. Joe's. Let's go to St. Joe's. And then she said, no, Krause. And I was like, now you can speak. That was the only thing she said the whole transport.
Wow.
So when we got to the hospital, they were like, do you have a name and date of birth? And I was like, no, she won't talk to me. And so the like nurse came over and I was like, yeah, if you want to talk to her, by all means. Like, she won't tell me anything. And she was like, oh, okay. So she comes over and she goes, oh, she can't talk, but she can request Krause, huh? And like kind of like shoved me a little bit. And I was like, yeah. 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 I was just like, and like my partner was like, oh my gosh. And I just was like, so then afterwards I like took a little bit of time to decompress. We got a room and then I like ended up helping this nurse with like a couple of her other patients that weren't mine. And then she was like, I'm really sorry. Like, we're understaffed. And I was like, so are we. But like, we don't take it out on you. Like, we're all on the same team here. We're all understaffed. We're all in it together. Like, we gotta have each other's backs here. Like, don't touch me.
I'm glad there's people like you doing that job, Maddie, because I would not want to do that job. You have a thankless job. I hope you know that. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you
It's
so
an hour long.
much.
Can you believe an hour flew by?
Gosh, that was
I
crazy.
know. My camera died, so at the very end of this, we won't get to see the video. And,
That's okay.
Props to your dad. Your dad did tell me how to get this to not overheat. I just think your boy messed it up.
It's okay.
In any rate, I appreciate you. Yeah,
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. This was so fun. I knew there was no way we would get to any of those topics at length. There's just so much.
There's so much to talk about, and the topic has helped me realize that I never want to be an EMS. So thanks, Maddie. I appreciate you doing this.
Anytime.
Thank you.
I'm glad I could clear that up for you.